traveling the length of Africa on foot without assistance or sponsors, spending each night in the homes of those kind enough to take them in. This was the crazy gamble undertaken by Sonia and Alexandre Poussin. They set off to meet today's Africans on a tremendous 3-year journey from the Cape of Good Hope to the Sea of Galilee in Israel. Through their video camera, they present an Africa such as we have never seen. How will they fare in the heart of this immense continent? Faced with thirst and malaria, faced with the fear of lions and with exhaustion, this is the story of their tremendous odyssey.
This is what you call fly tea.
They're 14,000 kilometers in the footsteps of humankind.
Look at the outline against the blue of the sky. It's really moving.
Who told us recently that our trip was glamorous?
An idiot.
What have you done wrong? What sins are you atoning for on the roads of Africa? Why are you sacrificing 3 years of a comfortable life? It's the question that Africans often ask. It's a good point.
I'm tired. We didn't sleep well last night, and this morning we hardly ate anything. Although he hasn't said anything, Alexandre is exhausted too. We've been walking in this desert for 10 days. In fact, we have been walking for nearly 3 years. At first, we naively thought that we would be able to travel the length of Africa in 1.5 years. We started from the Cape of Good Hope on January the 1st, 2001. The weather was beautiful, and it didn't feel like we were in Africa. It felt more like being in Provence by the Mediterranean. Before leaving, Alexandre and I traced out our route. Our plan was to travel up the whole continent, entirely on foot, following the Great Rift Valley. We would cross 11 countries: South Africa, Lesotho, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Malawi, Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, Sudan, Egypt, and Israel, to reach the Sea of Galilee, where, according to geographers, the Great Rift ends. We wanted our journey to be a symbolic walk in the footsteps of the first humans, a tribute to our hominid ancestors who left from the cradle of Africa to conquer the whole planet. The idea was also to set off without sponsors and without assistance, but we would be totally reliant. For the principle of our walk was to spend each night with the people, to share their hospitality, and to better understand the Africa of today.
We turn left here. We could have asked for hospitality at Ohio Farm.
Yes, but there is barbed wire everywhere. The sign says arm response, and there are dogs. And there is an electrified gate. And you've obviously got to ring. So Ohio Farm can wait for another time. At the beginning, it was really hard for me to ask for hospitality. I was ashamed and very intimidated. I didn't dare. I let Alex take the initiative. He had already cycled around the world and traveled through the Himalayas on foot, under the same conditions.
Hi.
Yes, what can I do for you?
We are two French people. We are walking through Africa. And we did 38 kilometers today and we are exhausted. Can we ask you for your hospitality tonight?
Okay, come on in. Are you finished?
So now we are very, very, very happy.
Why? Because it's like Hollywood?
Because this is like Beverly Hills, but with a hint of Monaco.
We'll be in the movie, we'll be megastars.
What do you serve?
Ginger ale.
Ginger ale. Chin chin. Do you want some, Doug?
Ah la la. We didn't meet many millionaires in the 3 years. They were all concentrated in the beautiful areas of the Cape.
That fellow is wondering what the hell we are doing here.
He's right. You gotta be nuts to be stuck out here.
He's thinking, why don't you take a lift? There's a car every 10 minutes.
كم دقيقة كم دقيقة الأردام
6 دقائق 7 دقائق
7 دقيقة 7 دقيقة
ça peut pas faire 7 minutes.
Yes, there's a small house over there. Come on, let's go.
ماشي
Someone has just opened the door. The owners of the workshop have arrived. There is a little baby who's really cute. Really small. This is the grandmother, and then there is the whole family. Here we are a bit more sheltered, but there is still a really strong wind.
In every country, we try to learn the language, but we don't necessarily understand all the dialects. In any case, a lot of our communication takes place without words. We are filming ourselves. We haven't got a TV crew with us. Our little video camera has a reversible screen that allows people to see they are being filmed. This is how I manage to keep the people in the frame and let them see themselves with me. Instead of being seen as an intrusion, this little camera can create an immediate bond. And it quickly becomes a game. At first, they often think it's a mirror, but some of them have never seen one. So they are seeing themselves for the first time, and it's a shock to them. But at the same time, it's reassuring if they can see themselves. It means that their image or their soul is not being stolen and put in a box.
Mama. Mama.
أنا ذاتي أنا ذي
اسمك منو؟
صالح على محمد
شكرا.
شايف كلنا
Oh, you are a bit scared of me.
دقيقة هنا.
أنا ما حسن.
قلت لك
أو شو زعل أنا صعب تضربه هم زعل
أنا عندي ديادي زعل قبل
It's not a given. It's never a sure thing. Walking is always difficult. And yet we are here, in the middle of the Sahara, with 1,000 days of walking behind us. When we set out, we didn't dare imagine that one day we would get to the Sudan. At first, I had some misgivings about making Sonia endure all this. But right from the start, I could see that it was her trip too. It was her thing. We had already done several treks together, long ones. I knew she had stamina and she was tough. Meeting people is what drives her. Each link in this chain of incredible encounters has allowed us to get all the way here. Some Africans are so surprised to see us arrive on foot that they ask us, "What sins are you atoning for?" They can't believe that we are walking without our European comforts in order to come and live like they do. Surely we have problems to settle with the higher powers or something to reproach ourselves about. And when we tell them we don't have any children, some people think we have fertility problems, and that's why we're walking. Being able to meet a millionaire one day and a criminal who's turned to music the next. The magic of walking is that it breaks down the walls that divide people. It makes everything possible. In South Africa, we found ourselves in the most dangerous part of Johannesburg with ex-cons who used to hijack cars. Our friends, Muzi, Luther and Makas and their jazz band were just coming home from the La Villette Festival, which they had been invited to by the French Institute of South Africa.
He's also a musician?
Now you have a boyfriend.
Come.
You have a new boyfriend now.
Come quickly. Come quickly.
You have a new boyfriend now.
He's sick. Come quickly.
Alexandra is the most famous underprivileged location in South Africa. It is here that Mandela grew up. According to the South Africans, Alexandra is the mother of all townships. This town is a symbol of a still divided society where poverty remains mostly black. Only 400 meters from here is the residential and business area of Sandton, with its villas and offices that provide some jobs to the community.
Shoot me, don't play, man. You take me to America.
To France.
Yeah, shoot me, man. I'm waiting.
Yeah?
Our friends invited us to a wedding where they were going to play. They drove around Alexandra to pick up the rest of the group. During this little guided tour, they talked about their recent trip to Paris. They had been shocked to discover a city where one can walk peacefully, where women can walk alone in miniskirts, and where you can make a phone call right in the street without fear of having your cell phone snatched. So much for the Eiffel Tower. It was more the incredible sense of security that impressed them.
Just find out whether they are going somewhere or they're still around here, okay? Okay, come on, let's go, guys. Okay, put that thing down. All right, he's coming. Tammy, come, you have to play the trombone. The bass. That's why. But now it's part of life.
I was a criminal. I live by stealing. You see, hijacking cars with guns. Now see heavy guns.
I couldn't help stealing cars, and I used to harass women. About 3 years ago, my record was about 50 cars, but now I don't even have a single car.
I saw terrible things in jail, whereby people stab each other with forks, knives.
And I went to jail for 9 months. Actually, I could have done 2 years. So it was Mandela's birthday. It took 6 months off my sentence. Then I spent 9 months in jail. Now I'm a man. I think I can live positively and play music.
Music has changed my life a lot, because now I'm leading a band, which I'm so hopefully that I could keep it together till the youngsters that can come and join and take it over.
Now I'm free, as I am. I'm playing music. I'm free as a bird.
Wish that they will not take me for who I was, but for who I am now. Thank you. It's cool.
It's for times like these that we're walking. In a world that is seeking to become more and more virtual, where people dream of abolishing space, of being teleported effortlessly to the other side of the planet, I want to walk at ground level. I want to take the time to see the world with my own eyes. They've set off into the sandstorm again, with the baby all wrapped up.
The baby, the grandmother, the aunt, the mother, and the brother who has stayed loyal to his post because he's taking care of the shop. Often we wish we could stay longer, but we mustn't abuse the kindness of our hosts. We made a rule that we wouldn't stay more than one night. But sometimes it's hard to leave when we've only just met. This little boy is adorable. One of my nicest memories is when we visited the Barbades and were able to spend several days with them.
Oh, Alexander.
Hey, Jambo.
Morning.
How are you?
Fine.
Nzuri sana.
Nzuri.
Lala,
Salala, salama.
We knew that a celebration was about to take place, which is why we decided to stay longer. The little brother is fascinated by the 10 pigs. He is probably thinking they would make nice bracelets because they are so shiny. Like sardines, with a beautiful color. He's been hanging around for an hour, checking out each corner of the tent and wondering which one he's going to take.
And what do you think of the see-through tent, Sonia?
It has its pros and cons. You are closer to people, but as far as privacy goes, I've seen better. You are closer to people, but as far as privacy goes, I've seen better. At first, the Barbarians couldn't understand who we were or what we were doing. We tried to explain that we were a bit like them. We were nomads, but white nomads. That eased the atmosphere right away. But then they asked, "Where's your herd?" We definitely lacked credibility as nomadic herders. My hair intrigues the Africans. Some are fascinated, some think it looks like a cow's tail. They often want to touch it, but they don't dare ask me. It's a kind of secret weapon. Sometimes I let the women brush my hair. It creates an immediate intimacy. It's like a little ritual that creates a bond.
Hey, hey,
Usually, Alex brushes my hair. But for once, I'm amongst women. It's unusual and quite nice, because she's very gentle.
Are you saying I'm not?
You are definitely not gentle. When I complimented her yesterday on her face markings, she said, "If you like, I can do the same thing on you." So I said, "I'm not as brave as you. I don't think I could handle the pain." They must have done it on her when she was a little girl. But then she said, "I can draw it on your face with a marker, so we'll see how it turns out. This way, we'll look a bit alike." That moment was unique. I understood very little of what Madiako said. She spoke to me in soft whispers. Alex and his camera intimidated her. Barbeg women aren't allowed to look men in the eye.
نهيت نهيت بعد الشو Madiako.
They laugh when we kiss them on the cheek, because it's really something. So do we look alike? Not much.
She's done a ravishing version on you. Even more sophisticated. This is mtsango, corn with cheese in it, that tastes like roquefort. It's fermented, and it's delicious.
It's very good.
C'est digne de la cuisine de Roquefort.
This is enoch, which is curdled milk.
Avec?
With a few flies in it for extra flavor. The celebration day came very quickly. Right up until the last moment, we didn't know whether they would let us attend. We had to negotiate with the village chiefs. Alexander told them about his apprenticeship in the high pastures of the Swiss Alps, when he had to look after 40 cows. It had actually been his end-of-year work placement when he was a political science student. He had chosen to milk cows and make cheese for 2 months instead of working in an office. At the time, his tutors thought he was wasting his time and it would never be useful. But for the Barbaics, this detail proved crucial.
Kidamuyao and Madiango have given us the permission to film the secret traditional dance of the Barbaig.
In Barbaig, Badishto. Barbaig, Badishto.
This ceremony gives an opportunity for young men and women to meet each other and eventually choose a wife or husband. Until a few years ago, the bravest men would set off after the ritual to kill a lion or an enemy in order to prove their manhood. The authorities banned this dance for a long time. Today, the choreography remains the same. But it's no longer necessary to kill in order to seduce one's sweetheart. They dance to respect tradition and to gain the favor of Aseta, the Barbaig sun god.
Here's a little poussin. That means chick in French, and also our name. He's all dried out. Where is the birdie gone? There he is. He's no more. All dried out by the desert. We are going to go to bed when the sun goes down, but we've walked for an hour and a half without seeing any trucks. Not to hitch a lift, of course, but just to get some water for the night. It's crazy how vulnerable the human species is. We're 24 hours past the last water, and we are desiccated. The first time we got thirsty was in Zimbabwe, and that's still a painful memory. The night before, we had been taken in by a very poor family. It was so hot. It was so hot that everyone slept outside. We set off at 6 in the morning on empty stomachs, with 4 liters of water each, enough to last 24 hours, no more. We were in a sparsely inhabited border area between Zimbabwe, which was in political turmoil, and Mozambique, which had been devastated by drought. The bush was still riddled with mines dating from the 70s and the wars of independence. The border post was a 3-day walk away. On our route, we thought we could rely on meeting at least one person who could resupply us. Miscalculation. We haven't seen a soul for 2 days. The sun is setting on what has been our toughest Africa Trek day so far. After 10 months and 7 days of walking. Why? Because it's been a day without water, without villages, without people, without rivers. So we've been rationing our water. Tomorrow, 15 or 20 kilometers after sunrise, we should reach the border. 15 or 20 who knows? So tonight, we barely have any water. And our throats are getting very parched. You okay? So this morning we have no more water. Now it's a race against the clock and against the sun to find water before the sun dehydrates us completely and we lose too much sweat. We have to find water. The river we were counting on with this nice bridge is completely dry. And our throats more and more so. We thought we heard a rooster, and a rooster means people. Maybe the water will come from people instead of from the river. We've just seen a vision. She appeared out of the blue. What a sight for sore eyes.
She's got water on her head.
Shall we call her?
Madame! Moron! Moron!
It's like the return of life. Life returning. Water, it's just crazy. And my throat is gurgling with joy. I feel alive now. Thank you. Thank you so much. You saved us, Lucy.
Oh, thank you, Tatenda. So good. Zakanaka.
That day, Providence came dressed in the clothes of the poor. Lucy, a fleeting embodiment of our walk in the footsteps of our origins. Thirst must also have been a constant concern for our hominid ancestors. Without other people, we are nothing. Our walk would be impossible. Every morning, we set off in search of someone who will take us in that night. We've ended up calling this unknown African our savior of the day. And our savior of the day seldom lets us down. So almost every hour, someone stops to offer us a lift. Of course, we turn it down. Our last offer came from the Minister of Sport from Catalonia. When we declined, he invited us to give a presentation in Barcelona after we returned home.
And he gave us some Spanish cookies.
They are proof that we are not telling lies.
Sin azúcar, without sugar.
Too bad.
Oh, we could have done with some.
So, Africa Trek is that too. The magic of the encounter. Walking makes things happen. Everyone tells us that it's impossible to cross this desert on foot. Wait and see. Here we are. We are celebrating 11,000 kilometers, not with candles, but with what's around us, sand.
A little dust off.
Bravo. I could give you 11,000 kisses.
I'm okay with that.
That'll keep us going forever.
Bravo.
The ultimate lens crime. It's terrible, putting sand on your lens. But there's nothing else around. No, we are not sunning ourselves on the beach. We're at Toshkamen station. And we're waiting for a camel train that should be coming from over there to take us up north to Argin.
What is this here?
Our main station, like Heathrow Airport. Like Heathrow station.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Toshka is the last watering hole before a terrible desert, the Batn el Hajar, which means the womb of stones. Nobody lives within 200 kilometers. Since the time of the pharaohs, hundreds of caravans have disappeared here, swallowed up by dreadful storms. It's impossible to cross this desert alone. Luckily, these camel drivers, who are taking 1,000 head all the way to Egypt, have agreed to take us along. But the camels travel too fast for us. In the first and only bending of our walking-only rule, we are forced to get up in the saddle every second hour. We have followed animal tracks many times before on this trip. Our most dangerous experience involved lion tracks. Are these hyena prints?
Right.
They are going in this direction, and we are going over there, so we're not going to run into them, I hope. But there are lots around.
Is the next one a lion?
Lion prints are bigger. I hope we are not going to see any. This time it's not a lion, it's a leopard.
It's like a big cat.
And it's rounder. Well, all this isn't exactly reassuring.
Right now we're being chased by a thunderstorm.
Yes, and we should speed it up.
There's rain in front of us too, look.
Yep, we are caught between two thunderstorms. And there isn't a single house or person anywhere. For about 25 kilometers, there hasn't been anybody.
That's really good news. So?
This time, they are lion prints. They are much bigger than the previous ones. The heel is bigger and the toe pads are separated. Now, this is reassuring. It looks like a meeting point. And we are still far away from the village.
I don't find it reassuring either, because all we have to defend ourselves with is a stick and some tear gas. That's not going to do much good face to face with a lion.
We have our rain capes. We could play the bullfighter. Olé!
I can really see you as a lion fighter.
Me too. We were joking around in front of the camera, but actually, we were petrified. It was hard not to be overwhelmed by panic. Alex was in even more of a state than me and couldn't sleep at night.
The camp is going to sleep in the moonlight. The camels have been rounded up. The fire is out. It's 1 in the morning, and we are probably to get up at 5:30, which is the time of the muezzin. We have 4.5 hours to sleep. Or is it 3.5? I don't know. In any case, we are going to sleep well.
C'est beau, c'est beau, c'est beau.
It's good to be among people. When we had to walk by ourselves on that track overrun by lions, I developed a real phobia. The fear of big cats haunted me with each step. I tried to imagine all the possible attack scenarios. I envisaged lions crouched behind every bush. The more I thought about it, the more my heart got worked up. There wouldn't be time to climb a tree. I'd have to face it, aim for its mouth, and avoid the fatal paw strike. Our only distractions were the tsetse flies who became the subject of our frustration. It's a type of horsefly that stings and transmits sleeping sickness. And that's why this whole area has been abandoned by people. There are no livestock, no people, no fields, only wild animals. We're between 2 villages. Look, there's one on my arm. That's a tsetse fly. Thanks, Sonia. This is one of the few puddles that doesn't get driven through. The water is drinkable, but the filter clogs up quickly. When the pumping gets tough, you have to stop and clean it. That's how it broke last time. The few people we met along this track during those 15 days were Wasukuma nomads. They were taking their herds south in search of grazing, always accompanied by a lion hunter. And apparently, he wasn't there just as an extra.
He killed a lion?
Yeah, he killed a lion. This is a sign of kill and lion.
Is it true?
This is true. Ask him in Swahili.
In Swahili? Simba? Simba? Can I see? This is a claw of lion.
Yeah, this is a claw of lion.
You?
This is a skin of lion.
Jackson performed the lion dance for us, which he sings before going hunting in order to give himself courage. I realized that we had been completely reckless to walk along that track without a weapon. If only we had had a spear like his.
Mungu akubariki. Hey, be careful. Aya. 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 We've just stopped for lunch. This little girl here has a pulse of 120. She has a shocking fever. Apparently, she has malaria. So we are going to give her something that we have for children.
Kiasi gani mwaka?
Na miaka mitano.
Tano. Tano.
I think she's 5. She's 5, so I'll give her the strongest dose. 2 tablets right away.
The whole area is particularly affected by malaria, especially during the rainy season. We'd anticipated this and had bought several anti-malarial treatments.
It's amazing the trust they have. I could be giving her anything. They take it as if it's the Holy Spirit.
Hein? Alors, dans Saasita, Modia. Modia. Saasita Bada, Modia.
Kesho. Tomorrow.
She's delirious. This is the first time that I've seen a fever like this.
Nashukuru, asante Salome.
Hakuna matata.
Hakuna matata mama. Hakuna matata.
We're heading off again. It's early, 2:30. I hope they give that little girl the medicine and that she gets better soon. I really hope so, but we will never know.
Well, my head is throbbing and my knees ache. I ache everywhere. I clearly have a fever. My pulse is 80 to 88. Normally it's 60. I'm not well. It doesn't feel like the symptoms of the flu. No sore throat. No diarrhea. So in all probability, I have malaria. We're in the middle of the bush. In the last village, Mitundu, there's a clinic. A car's coming. I think it's going to take us back there. Don't worry, I'm going to be fine. It's not as bad as a snake bite.
What is the verdict?
Does he have malaria?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Plenty.
Plenty.
Malaria.
I was only stuck in bed for 24 hours, thanks to a miracle drug, dihydroartemisinin, a Chinese cure not recognized by Western medicine at the time. The next morning, a man was rushed to the clinic because his arm had been mauled by a lion. I then realized how real the danger had been, and that we'd been right to worry.
And could he hit the lion?
They killed it. It was a female, and there were 4 lions. The lions have already killed 1 person in the village of Mamalungu, where you spent the other night.
If it hadn't been for that sudden attack of malaria, we might have ended up like Joseph, or even worse. The next day, it was Sonia's turn to be struck down with a fever. We knew it would happen at some point. We couldn't cross Africa on foot without getting malaria. That was the price we'd have to pay. It was also the first time in 12 years that I'd seen Sonia sick. I had taken all my little Chinese pills, and there were none left for her. I felt guilty.
I'm scared of the lions. I don't want to be sick anymore. I want to go home.
No, just don't be afraid.
Sonia,
Close.
squeeze your fist, Sonia. Otherwise, the vein won't show.
Don't be afraid. Just a moment.
The bout of malaria in Tanzania was one of my hardest ordeals. As incredible as it may seem, I had never been seriously ill before. I absolutely hate injections. I'd rather come face to face with a lion. I'd rather walk 6,000 kilometers. But please. I'd rather walk 6,000 kilometers. But please, no needles. The nuns treated me with quinine, which is the treatment commonly used for the Africans. The bottle is empty. They gave me a second one yesterday. But I reacted very badly to this drug, as do most malaria victims. It's an archaic treatment that has little changed since the 19th century. It can kill as well as cure.
Aren't you hungry?
This morning, when I woke up, there was only one thing I really wanted. It'll make you laugh. It's salmon. Salmon with lemon. I have expensive tastes.
Wow, why not the Holy Grail?
Of course, I wanted to go home. Alex hadn't called our families yet, so they wouldn't worry. If our parents had been notified right away, the chances are they would have insisted I come home. And that would have been the end of Africa Trek.
Its body had immediately been burned to prevent its remains from being used by sorcerers. These unusual attacks were reviving old quarrels between the nomadic and settled tribes. The Wanakusa farmers were accusing the Wasukumas and their herds of trampling their fields, thereby destroying already meager crops.
This lion killed a man.
Accompanied by Father Raphael Romain-Monnier, who has lived in Tanzania for 50 years, I went to see Chief Mlisho. For him, the presence of these man-eaters was not an accident.
Wasukuma ni wapuuzi, wanatorosha wake za watu, wanawaleta. Wakiwaficha, mwenye mke anatafuta muoni, anatuma simba. Alafu la pili wanaiba ng'ombe. Wanazificha zile ng'ombe, mwenye ng'ombe atatafuta bila kuziona. Lazima aende kwa mganga apate dawa, atume simba. Lazima anafuata kwenda kukamata Wasukuma. Mbone wenyeji wakamatu.
The district head was going to call the two tribes together so that they could explain their positions and settle the conflict peacefully.
But if the head of the district doesn't take the initiative, they know what they're going to do. After the corn harvest, they leave the stalks in the fields. The Wasukuma's cows will come and eat those stalks, but they'll be coated with honey. And then the cows will become unquenchably thirsty. They'll drink and drink until they die. It's a radical way of getting rid of the Wasukuma, and this year there will be lots of honey.
And how do you fit in?
I listen, I'm a witness, but I'm powerless.
Later, Father Raphael explained to me that during the rainy season, as there is water everywhere, the antelopes cease gathering around a single water hole. With the game dispersed, the lions have trouble hunting. It's always easier for them to attack herds rather than isolated individuals. Driven by hunger, they then fall back onto the villages. All day, the camel drivers make sure that the troublemakers get back in line. It is quite a job to keep several hundred camels together.
My stomach hurts a bit. I've got abdominal aches from yesterday.
Oh là là.
This definitely isn't a sport we are used to.
Le chameau. Chaud.
It's really like an elevator. That's an wow of contentment. Oh yes. But it's so good to stop. They call him Jake the Peg. They tie their legs, otherwise if they decide to be naughty or get frightened at night, they'll be up and off and you'll never see them again. Last night they scared us with several standing starts, all 300 at once. We were a little afraid. We thought they wouldn't see us. So they tie up one of their legs, thank goodness. Even with 3 legs, they still manage an incredible speed, but at least they are slower than on 4.
When she stopped taking quinine, Sonia started to feel better. While she was resting and regaining strength, the lions continued their attacks and injured 4 other people after Joseph. In all, 9 people were killed. They hadn't seen this sort of thing for 20 years. People didn't dare go outside. The lions were roaming around the villages. They even went inside a few of the huts. But some villagers, with the help of seasoned hunters, had nonetheless managed to kill 9 lionesses. This one had been poisoned the previous day. When we stop for the night in a village and we tell people we've walked all the way from South Africa, they don't always believe us. For them, it's pretty abstract. Some of them think, more whites telling us stories again. With the nomads, it's different, because we are traveling with them, and we have to prove ourselves. The camel drivers watch us all day long. At first, they were afraid that we wouldn't be able to keep up with them, or be able to eat their food, or that we would fall off our camels. For them, whites are very different beings who need special things to live, otherwise they'll die. Bit by bit, we try to be like them, not to be a burden. We do as they do, and that's how finally they adopt us. The African savanna is also a hostile environment for man. It's big cat territory, and water is scarce. But the Maasai have learned to live in complete harmony with these vast landscapes. Like the camel drivers in the desert, they live on poetry and contemplation. The Maasai have a strong relationship with their animals. Their livestock are sacred to them and constitute their only property, their only wealth. The Maasai aren't allowed to hunt for food. They subsist mainly on curdled milk. They know every blade of grass, every stone, every bush in their vast territories. Everything has a meaning to them. They can see mythical stories in a model of animal prints, find water in what seems to be in the middle of the desert.
Majinzuri? Yes. Apa nama Gadi?
It's a lovely shade of brown.
Look, the wasps can smell the water. The water is soft, filtered through volcanic deposits. Must be healthy. Do you want some? Look how good it is. It's life. We climbed all the way to the top of Oldonyulengai, their sacred volcano, the abode of their god, Enkai, who gave them all the livestock in the world. Lengai is the only active volcano in the area. At the summit, we were amazed to find a unique type of lava that whitens as it cools. It's carbonatite. While I was going into raptures over the properties of this 500-degree centigrade lava, Sonia had her mind on breakfast instead.
Anyone for toast? Let's do the other side. I'm toasting my face at the same time. And here we have, ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves, the finished item, ready to eat.
It doesn't taste too much of sulfur?
No, it's okay. It's really good.
Chui. Chui. Sio mkumbwa, mtoto chui.
Sio mtoto.
Sio mtoto.
Hapana mtoto.
Hapana kubwa. Ni kubwa.
Mtui, our Maasai guide, has taken us all the way to the summit. All his people admire and fear this mountain. Their god's fury can be fearsome. The last eruption, in 1966, covered the whole area in poisonous ash, decimating dozens of villages and killing people and livestock. The Maasai are tuned in to the vibrations of the earth. This prayer to the god of the volcano is a mark of respect, a humble song asking him to remain lenient. There is excitement in the air because the camels are going to get a drink. We've made it to Lake Nasser.
لك نسير نعم البحر تمام جميل مويه كتير الجمال مبسوط تمام
It's a party.
And they're off. I'm repairing my bra. Look, it's an old relic.
How long have you had it?
Over 4 years.
What?
1 year in Paris, then 3 years and every single day in Africa.
Don't mention the brand, but it probably deserves some publicity.
It deserves some publicity because, well, I'm embarrassed to show it. But this is its most presentable side. It just gave up. I obviously have to fix it. There is no way I'm getting back on a camel without my lifting gear. Otherwise, it could get messy. So I need to fix it right away. Too bad if some people are alarmed by the humongous cups.
Stop showing off. It's time to part company. They're heading over the border with the camels.
باي شكرا ادم كويس اركب تمام كويس انا مبسوط كثير شكرا بطانيه شكرا لك تمام بارك الله مويا بريد ما في ليلى نوم تمام شكرا شكرا
The Egyptian authorities have given us exceptional permission to cross the whole country, from Abu Simbel to the Sinai, on one condition, that we are protected by an escort around the clock. Since the 97 attacks, when 62 tourists were killed at Luxor, all travelers are closely watched. Without the help of the Egyptian ministries of the Interior and of Tourism, our walk would have ended at Lake Nasser. Each day, a new police crew takes over as our escort. The total number of policemen will end up exceeding 1,000. The advantage is that we don't have to carry our packs.
It's 45 degrees in the shade. When the sun is at its zenith, you can't walk anymore. You have to find some coolness at all costs. Shh, everyone's sleeping. The policemen have fallen asleep in the car. And Alex, behind them, is asleep too. What is he dreaming about? How many times has he found himself like this, exhausted, at the side of the road? He always has to surpass himself. When I met him at 20, he was having fun climbing the monuments in Paris. He can't stop himself. After his cycle trip around the world, he walked for 5,000 kilometers across the Himalayas. For him, life is only worth living when there is a new challenge to take up. Sometimes, I think that what Alex lived through when he was 13 partly explains his lust for life. He broke his neck in an accident and had to stay immobilized for a year in hospital. For many long months, he had to wear a brace that was screwed into his skull, so he wouldn't move his neck. He could easily have died or become a quadriplegic. It's a miracle that he came through. He still maintained it hasn't got anything to do with his need to experience the extreme. At first, I was almost intimidated by what he did. While he was away, I worked out, read a lot, learned to climb, went on treks, did my own traveling, a real assault course, because I felt the need to get on his wavelength.
The poor guys who've been assigned to walk with the two lunatics, they'll remember it for their whole lives.
But what's great is that now all the convoys going back and forth to Abu Simbel know us. And we've become roadside attractions. They stop, they throw us bananas.
Out of the windows.
Today, bananas and oranges. Bring it on. Today we were really lucky because we came across a busload of Germans who went crazy over us. They gave us all their trays. Now we are completely overstocked. On top of that, we are lucky to be sharing our campsite with Nabil, our policeman, who is staying with us tonight, along with his machine gun.
But Nabil will have to stay incognito thanks to the autofocus. So today we are changing crews and cars. Our 4 buddies have thrown in the towel. A new car and new crew have come to replace them. And here they are. Good luck. They call us Mr. and Mrs. Shorba. alias Mr. and Mrs. Soup, because they are astonished that all Mr. and Mrs. Shorba, alias Mr. and Mrs. Soup, because they are astonished that all we eat every lunchtime is dried noodle soup. They also struggle to understand why we insist on walking. Without fail, every new team tries to get us to cheat. They're always trying to get us into the car. It's a game to see if they can get us to crack. But we've become immune. We've been declining this kind of crooked proposition for 3 years. By refusing, we earn their respect and their friendship.
Ici, c'est Louis, 10 millième kilomètre, tel que c'est Sonia.
We are in the middle of Ramadan.
تمام بعيد؟ لا ما بعيد هناك تمام الحمد لله يلا
At nightfall, we're spontaneously invited to break the fast with our police crew. Iftar is the moment of the day everyone waits for impatiently.
Wow, at the back, there are sweets and delicious drinks, guava juice. Look, there is more arriving. Chicken, wow, this is fantastic. You think it's a wedding. It's like every night they are getting married.
We've been living to the rhythm of the muezzin and the 5 daily prayers for 7 months now. In Africa, Islam has many faces. In Khartoum, we found an original and inspired kind of Islam. In the Sudan, 400 Sufi brotherhoods encompass the country's faithful. We attended a Friday zikr. The zikr is a kind of collective asceticism, a search for spiritual purity through physical purity. At the head of this great praying machine, Sheikh Karibullah controlled the rhythm. This waltz with God lasts all afternoon until evening prayers. For Sufis, physical effort is not an end in itself. It serves to create a form of breathing that's auspicious for praising God. For them, performing the 5 prayers and reciting the Shahada, the Muslim declaration of faith, is not enough. They want to go further in their spiritual quest. They want to submit every second of their lives to Islam. This somewhat martial demonstration of strength must remain an exercise in self-mastery. The ultimate goal is unity. The surrender of one's individuality to the collective faith in order to dissolve into Tawhid, unity with God.
We've just had our first glimpse of the pyramids. They rise above these nauseating suburbs and the canal we've been following for several weeks. They appeared like some kind of pure object piercing the skyline. Here we are, celebrating our arrival in Cairo. It's a nice way to enter the city. So symbolic. We're even going to be able to cross the yellow line. Here it is. We've arrived. Hey, come here. Pyramid. I wouldn't be so sure. Okay, let's go.
Ladies first? Is that it? Why not men first? The director of Egyptian Antiquities, Dr. Zahi Awas, was touched by our project and gave us a unique opportunity and exceptional permission to celebrate our 13,051st kilometer on top of the Cultural Summit of Egypt.
Here we are. We've made it.
Oh, bravo.
C'est beau comme tout, on va regarder.
C'est magnifique.
At our feet lies Cairo, with its 20 million souls. We still have 800 kilometers to go before reaching the Sea of Galilee in Israel, our final destination, and which, according to geographers, is the end of the Great East African Rift Valley.
I can see something. Come on, it's clear.
Bravo. We've hit the jackpot.
There are actually two.
He's even starting with a barcode. It's good to start your life with a barcode. A simple one, 2. Welcome to a cruel world, little poussin.
He's still got some walking to do.
We'll keep it a secret?
Let's keep it to ourselves.
Right, because otherwise there'd be pressure to stop walking.
Big family pressure.
Pressure to stop walking.
Oh là là.
We resume our trek, still escorted by our bodyguards. Walking 400 kilometers along a highway isn't glamorous, especially with Sonia's morning sickness. But she sets the pace and decides whether she can walk or not. I'm a bit worried. I'm afraid that she'll push herself too hard. I'm finishing my 8th notebook. Each night, no matter what, I write down my impressions of the day. For me, there can be no traveling without writing, and no writing without traveling. Sonia and I like to think that reality is actually stranger than fiction.
There's a slight smell of cat urine here. It's as if we are going to sleep with our heads in a cat tray tonight.
Cat litter.
Yep. But I guess it's better than rat urine.
We're gonna sleep with our clothes on?
Yes, things are definitely not glamorous this evening.
You taking off your shoes?
Yeah, I've taken off my shoes.
I wanted to keep mine on.
Well, have you seen the tar on them?
Did you sleep well? Did you sleep well?
Yeah.
You don't seem convinced.
There were lots of mosquitoes, so I slept with this on my head. Like a mummy. And with my hood on. I pulled my hood up so that I will create more space and that the netting wouldn't be right against my nose, because any contact means getting bitten. And given the length of my nose, there is bound to be contact. To cap it all, I forgot to put in my earplugs. It was a mosquito fest all night. But you, dirty rat, you kept your earplugs for yourself.
Of course I put my earplugs in.
You selfish person, you.
But I figured it was tough enough to sleep as it was.
But I wanted to hear, because I noticed at one point there was a guy who thought he could sleep here. He started checking the door. I was scared. I was jabbing you with my elbows.
I didn't wake up.
Yeah, I see how well you were protecting your family. Look, I had grabbed my thing here, because you weren't doing anything. So I just had this in case.
With that and the cat urine, we would have been totally gassed.
I thought it would be better not to use it, but just in case. When the guy started checking the door to get in, I said, oh. He must have been surprised to hear a woman's voice, especially speaking French.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a?
Maybe some people find it surprising that I am continuing, even though I'm pregnant, that it's not a wise thing to do. But when I think of all the women I met in Africa, I could decide to stop, but that's something they can never do. There are lots of things we saw, lots of things people shared with us that we couldn't film because they were too private, and we didn't want to intrude on our host with our shameless camera. It's a question of respect. More than the men, it was the women who took us in, fed us, and quenched our thirst during these 3 years of walking.
Well, you can come to your room and
thank you.
got a small room and it's not finished.
Well, anyway, it would be perfect.
Big
enough for us. Well, we used to sleep on the floor.
They always behaved like mothers towards us.
This is my daughter's room. Yeah, that's a room.
You mean
for
this,
you.
this palace? You mean that we will sleep in this room?
These women are so brave, so resilient. They carry the continent on their shoulders.
Half the world's sea traffic passes through here. All the oil headed for Europe or the United States transits through this canal. We received a special permission to go through Rafah, a checkpoint overlooking the Gaza Strip. It saved us an extra 300 kilometers of walking to get into Israel.
أنا فلسطين.
Well, now we are leaving Rafah terminal on the way to Kerem Shalom because we are on the border and we have Palestinian villages on the way. We have to drive in a special anti-bullet car.
Like this one?
Like this one.
This is all Palestine on this side and Egypt on this side?
That's right. These are all the Palestinians'
houses and places.
Houses, yes. And this way, this road, you have to drive with a special car.
Okay. How many kilometers?
It's about 3 kilometers.
So you make us cheat 3 kilometers?
Yes.
No problem.
Our symbolic walk in the footsteps of mankind will soon be over, and today we are taking our first steps into this land. A land 3 times holy, but so divided, so torn apart. It requires a lot of courage for those who live here to dream of anything beyond war. Yet, things could change. One day, near the start of our walk in South Africa, we came across a school that no one would have thought possible before Mandela came to power, only 7 years before. We found white and black children sitting on the same benches, the future of a country that has to recover from 300 years of segregation. The most encouraging part was that this school had been founded and paid for by white farmers. We can only hope that one day Israelis and Palestinians will be able to coexist in peace.
Images from all our experiences are crowding into my head. I'm having trouble believing it's almost over. I'm thinking about all these women who confided in me, some of whom envied me my freedom. As one of them, I was accepted into their communities, and they sometimes let me film their secret rituals. In the Sudan, for example, they invited me to attend a Zar ritual. During these exclusively female gatherings, all the taboos weighing them down are lifted. They can smoke, drink, have fun. They are free to express all the demons gnawing away at them. They forget about their husbands who bully them or who take a second wife. They forget that they were circumcised and infibulated at age 5. Their greatest strength is that despite all their problems, they never lose hope.
We are remembering each and every link in the chain of hospitality and support, and all the saviors of the day who allowed us to make it to this point. It is to them that we dedicate our walk and to whom we are indebted. I don't feel like shouting. Mine is a serene joy, as if it wasn't over, as if we were going to carry on walking forever.